On this week's show, we take you to the Big Red Farm, explore this year's Weeden Lecture, profile Guys and Dolls cast member Charlie Christoffersen, and get reaction from the athletic community on the Hait school competition. Lawrenceville's 10-minute newscast begins right now. From the studios inside the Lawrenceville School's historic Pop Hall, this is L10 with Aiden Duffy. Hello and welcome to this week's show. On Thursday, Laurentians gathered in the Edith Memorial Chapel to remember those lost and those affected by the recent tragedy in Las Vegas. Thoughts, feelings, and prayers were shared as students, faculty, and staff came together for support and reflection. On Friday, during consult, the Pop Hall Rotunda buzzed with students buying apple cider donuts and smoothies to support Hurricane Maria relief efforts. All proceeds will be donated to AmeriCares, a charity leading hurricane relief efforts in the U.S. and Caribbean. Tom Shepard, Dean of Enrollment Management, has been named the 12th head of school of St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Jackson, Mississippi. A key strategic leader since coming to Lawrenceville in 2013, Shepard modernized the school's admissions operations and broadened recruitment efforts. Work will begin this fall to identify his successor. Anthony Ray Hinton, who spent 30 years on death row after being wrongly convicted in 2 Alabama shootings, spoke at school meeting on Thursday. Hinton talked about his fight for freedom and his efforts to combat unfairness in the American criminal justice system. Caleb Faring, Lawrenceville class of 2011, is exploring America's farmland one farmer at a time for his new project, American Farm Odyssey. RFD-TV will air Faring's adventure as he spends the year traveling by bike through America's agricultural landscape. A night climb at the Josh Ropes course will be held tomorrow at 7:30. The annual event, a highlight of the fall season, is open to the Lawrenceville community and features music and fall treats in addition to climbing. Spanning 15 acres, the Big Red Farm is a historic and dynamic part of Lawrenceville's campus. We visited with the farm crew, along with Science Master and Big Red Farm Program Manager, Dr. Stephen Laubach, to talk to them about new initiatives.
Hello, today I'm here with our farm manager, Mr. Peter Crook. Hello.
Hello.
Can you walk us through where we are right now and what's happening right now at the farm here?
Sure. So we have a couple of blocks of area here. If you look off to the left, this bed right here that has a white tag there is carrots. That's something that'll probably be ready for harvest in maybe 3 weeks or so. Okay. Hoping that it's used in the dining hall. If you keep looking along here, it looks like there's a bunch of stuff that's mowed down. Mm-hmm. And that's because we had winter squash there, butternut squash, acorn squash, delicata squash, all of which will be used in the dining hall. So it was recently harvested mostly by the autumn farm crew, or completely by the autumn farm crew. And now it's going to be turned over into cover crops soon. So it'll be a mixture of rye, which is a grain, and vetch, which is a legume, a mix of 2 different seeds for renewing the soil for later for next year.
Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Laubach. I'm a science master and also program manager for the Big Red Farm.
Perfect. So one big question I have for you is, what do you think our Laurentian Aldo Leopold would think about our farm today and all the programs happening?
Sure. So Aldo Leopold is probably most famous for the concept that he described as a land ethic, which he explained involves expanding the boundaries of community beyond human-to-human interactions to include soils and waters and plants and animals, or collectively the land. And he also explained that nothing as complicated as an ethic is ever written. It evolves in the minds of a thinking community. And so I can think of no better example of an ethic evolving in a thinking community than what we're trying to do out here, because it's at a school. So students are learning about the ethics of where their food comes from. They're learning about ecological footprints and leaving a positive impact on the land for future generations.
I'm here with our Big Red farming crew. So what is your favorite part about the farm?
My favorite part about the farm is we learn about a lot of new stuff. We learn about planting, harvesting.
And what made you want to do farming this term?
I wanted to do farming this term because I wanted to know where our food and earning comes from, because I believe it's important in learning whether the food that we are eating is sustainable and healthy.
Thank you, Tiffany. On Monday night, Weeden Lecturer David W. Blight, Yale Professor of American History and renowned authority on Frederick Douglass, addressed the Lawrenceville community in a talk titled My Voice, My Pen, My Vote, The Many Lives of Frederick Douglass. We caught up with him the next morning in Mr. Philippone's Honors U.S. History class, where he discussed Frederick Douglass's narrative with fourth formers. My first question is, do you believe the political polarization we're experiencing today is similar to that of 1850?
Well, there are parallels between what's happening today and the decade or two before the Civil War. Historical analogies and parallels are never direct. They're always partial. We have to be careful about those parallels, though. The important thing to do with those parallels is to go back and look at them then, study them then, and see what lessons there are to take. Why did the country do what it did in 1854 over the expansion of slavery into Kansas? Why and how did people react to the Dred Scott case, which was fundamental to the slavery debate? Why and how did Americans react to John Brown's shocking raid on a federal arsenal in 1859? That is at least a way to begin to think about how do we react.
You talked a lot yesterday about how Frederick Douglass was kind of a master of words, and he went around the country sort of expressing his message of the horrors of slavery through words. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit more?
Language for a Frederick Douglass who had no other access to real political power became for him a source of power. And in an age of the rotary press for newspapers, and in an age of oratory, and an age now when books were widely published, the written word and the spoken word became his capital, his source of persuasion, his way to get the word out. And so he is an example in our history of a person who led by language, and led by the spoken and the written word. He didn't lead by passing legislation. He never could get elected to office. He didn't lead by, leading or building a major institution. He led by the written and the spoken word through his newspaper, his voice, and his pen.
This year marks Periwig's 125th season. The celebration kicks off with the musical Guys and Dolls. Michaela Boxley profiles cast member and fifth former Charlie Christoffersen.
Hi, I'm Charlie Christoffersen, senior. This is my third year doing the musical. This year I'm playing the part of Nicely Nicely Johnson in the 125th year of Periwig in the production of Guys and Dolls.
Nathan, concentrate on the game. The town is up to here with athletics. The Greeks in town.
I've been acting since I was small, like maybe 5 or something like that. I played an angel in A Christmas Carol, and then I didn't do anything until I was in like the 4th grade in Cinderella. Nicely, the character I'm playing is an obsessive gambler.
He's a lot of fun to be around. He's you can tell how experienced he is because he's been in previous shows, and he's really good in his role, and he's always supportive of everyone else.
I think I'm just going to miss the creative process behind coming up with a musical and seeing something created from start to finish. Going in on the first day and the songs sound terrible, and then by the end of the rehearsal process, things are sounding more professional. I like that feeling.
Thank you, Michaela. Finally tonight, senior sports correspondent Chloe Ashton talks with athletic director Tripp Welborne and athletes about Lawrenceville's 8 school competition.
What is the 8 Schools Association?
So the 8 Schools Association is comprised of many of our peer schools in the Northeast, and it consists of Lawrenceville, Choate, Deerfield, Hotchkiss, Exeter, Andover, St. Paul's, and Northfield Mount Hermon.
So what was the decision about making an 8 schools athletic association and having our school play those schools more in athletic competitions throughout the year?
Well, right now it's in the pilot phase, so that decision hasn't been formalized. However, the idea was to actually take an informal competitive association and make it a formal league. We already have partnerships in all sorts of things that we do, and so the collective heads and administration thought that it would be a fantastic idea to bring together interscholastic competition, which is inspired by the Ivy Leagues that we have today.
How are teams from New England different than like teams you'd play here? Like, did you see a difference?
Yeah, I think a big difference was that we didn't know players. So, I mean, a lot of us play club on this team, so we'll go into games being like, oh, number 24, she's really good. Like, I know she's a top scorer here. And so playing a New England team, they were, I think, equally as feisty, but the fact that we had no prior experience with them and no expectations going to the game, that actually made them and us both more competitive.
I think that playing those Elite 8 schools would very much increase competition. We've become very used to the Maple, and I think adding that into the criteria for athletics really makes it a lot more exciting for the teams, a lot more games, a lot more opportunities for varsity members to show out and the younger guys to get a lot more development. And, you know, we compete against them academically, why not athletically? We had a lot of fun going up there, and I bet they have a lot of fun coming down here. And I really think that would be a great idea to continue to push into the future, and I think it's going to be a great league.
Thank you, Chloe. That is our show for Friday, October 6th. From all of us here at L10, thank you for watching, and make it a great week.